Welcome to Cord Cutting This Week, episode number 58, the show where I give you my opinion on some of the biggest stories from the past week in cord cutting. Now, this is my opinion. If you want to learn more, in the show it's down below. I'll put a link to each story. And hey, come up with your own opinions. Let me know what you think I got wrong, what you disagree with. I'd love to hear from you. First, two quick housekeeping things. CES just ended, had so much fun. Got to meet a lot of the companies we cover. Always great to have a personal face-to-face interaction there. Got to record and report on a ton of news here at cordcuttersnews.com and our YouTube, youtube.com/cordcuttersnews. Make sure you check both because you may be missing some stuff if you only follow one. And it was just a lot of fun. We did something new though. We did those kind of daily videos where we're recapping a bunch of stuff I saw and people I met. Love to hear from you and what you thought about them. First time I've ever done anything like that. And I think we learned a lot this week. Learned a lot about how to camera that, record that kind of content, learn a lot about editing on that kind of content. And we're going to keep doing this in the future shows. I want to get better at it. I think we're better from day one when we get to the end. But there's still a long ways to go. I'd love to hear from you though, what you thought of those videos. Leave us a comment, give us some constructive criticism. And remember, first time we've ever done it, we're definitely developing, we're definitely learning more about it. So just keep that in mind. Number two, this is the last this week in cord cutting in this space. Moving. So last year I talked a lot about plans to turn this more into a studio. Well, my daughter's school, the church we go to, where the new Cord Cutter's new office is about 30 minutes down the road. After a lot of talk and decision of, hey, it kind of sucks driving 30 minutes one way to where everything is that we want to go to and we want to do, we decided to move about 30 minutes down the road. Well, that is now happening. It is packing week here at my house, and we're going to be moving into a new space. Now, the office that I'll be moving into, my home office, will be a little bit smaller, but it's actually going to be a much better space to have a more studio-esque setup. I think it's going to look better. I think once I get all the sound stuff set up, it's going to sound better. And it's going to allow us better lighting and everything. Because I actually got some windows here, got some different things. This was never meant to be like a YouTube video space. And now that we're going to be moving into this new place, we're going to really be able to focus on creating that. So next week I will be here, but not in this room. It probably won't be until February until you see the new home office, I guess we'll call it. And keep an eye out for the Cord Cutters News headquarters to be moving sometime in the near future to a new space that I think will really greatly improve the quality of what we can do, the content we can offer. And I got more big things on the way. So just keep in mind, you may see some videos in weird places the next week or so as we move. All right, let's jump into the news from past week. So CES happened, was there, so much fun. My feet still hurt. I'm a little tired from day after day. Was there Saturday through Friday. Had meetings every day, 15-hour days, but it was great productivity. Got a lot done for you guys. And you'll see more. We got more on the way. More videos, more posts. But here's what I thought of some of the biggest stories announced at CES were. Number one, Hulu's new user interface with grid guides. So I got to meet with the new head of Hulu, Jim Denny. I apologize if I mispronounced that. Denney. So let me know if I mispronounced that. But they announced a new user interface, and it really addresses many of the complaints most people have. One of the things people I think really struggle with Hulu is as you scroll through some of the screens, it would only show one show or one movie at a time. A lot of people would tell me, hey, it feels like Hulu doesn't have a lot of content. Well, they have a ton of content, but you had to click through it so much to get to it. I think that was a discouragement to people. The other thing people wanted was a traditional live TV guide. Now, I get it. You've had cable for 30 years, right? And now you want to have that same experience to a point. You want to do some things different, but you want to feel like it's still roughly the same experience you had with cable. And Hulu's doing that with a very traditional cable-esque guide and a new user interface. So keep a close eye on this. Spring of 2019 is when it will start rolling out, a few devices at a time, and they hope probably in the summer or so, maybe to have most of the devices updated to the new user interface. And some of the features may roll out a little earlier than that. We'll wait and see. But I'd love to know, how important are a traditional guide to you? Now, Hulu tried really hard to do the whole, like, we're going to reinvent the way we watch TV. Now they said, we're going to still have the cool features, but we're going to bring back some more traditional stuff that people have been asking for. Is that important to you? Do you enjoy that kind of stuff? Do you think it's critical for Hulu to make this move? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Number 2 at CES was 8K and big TVs. So one of the things I've always been asked about is, we want a affordable 8K TV. Some people have asked for that. Other people mostly wanted like, hey, I want a Roku TV, but they stop at 65 inches. I want bigger. We've come a long ways from when I was a kid and my parents bought, I think it was like a 23-inch TV. It was a tube TV. My original antenna was connected to, and we thought we were quite the house because we had a 23-inch TV and it was massive. Now, Roku has 75-inch 4K and 8K TVs coming out this year. That's pretty cool. I got to see them at CES. I'll have a video review coming up soon for them. But I'd love to know how important are big TVs to you? Are they just getting too big? Now, I will say for most people at 8K, it was like, whatever. On those bigger TVs, though, it really does kind of come into importance. Looking at 4K versus an 8K, especially when you got into like the 98 inches and that Samsung and Sony were showing off. I mean, 98 inches, it's just crazy. But the 8K at that point really does start to stand out as importance. TCL is going to use intelligent AI software, machine learning to auto upgrade 4K to 8K on the TV. So you still be bandwidthing 4K, but you be getting an 8K display. Now, this will be coming out later this year. They look stunning. It is still in development though. Like the pictures you see for that new, what they call TCL Roku TV 8 series are reference designs. They could change. Keep that in mind. What you see today could be slightly different. We saw this somewhat with the TCL, I want to say 3 Series Weber. The series in 2017, they showed it off, and the body came out with a slightly different color when it finally hit market. But overall, this should give you a good idea of what it will look like. Question to you, are you excited about 8K? More importantly, do you really want a bigger TV? Is that something you really care about? Is this a fad that you're not all that interested in? Let me know. TCL had a ton of TVs there. One of the things I find interesting about TCL, so things typically launch internationally in Japan and Asia and China and so forth, and then they come to the United States later. They had TVs. Last year all the Sonys and Samsungs had these thin TVs. TCL had TVs that were incredibly thin there. Would be cool to see that comes to Roku TVs in the future. I don't know. No promises, but it was cool to see it there because usually a few years later, when you see it, it hits the United States with, that kind of model. So let us know because this brings, like, for instance, QLED or Q Contrast, their new high-end contrast system, shown off, released last year internationally, now coming to the United States this year. So just remember that. All right, next up, AT&T is reportedly laying off a lot of people. It was reported in Motherboard, and AT&T has kind of confirmed it in AT&T PR language. I'll get to that in a moment. That they intend to have, quote, according to the report I saw, significant. What that means, significant to you. If one person gets fired, but it's you, it's significant. Is that 100 people? Is that 1,000 people? We don't know. But according to reports, AT&T said that they plan to geographically relocate people and eliminate some employment, quote, surplus. Will move operations in 10 operational hubs to other markets. So basically what AT&T here is doing is consolidating down from multiple locations into smaller ones and allow them to have one person who used to do 2 or 3 jobs. Now, lay off the other 2 people. Now, AT&T has a ton of money in debt, $180 billion in debt at the start of the year. They've been making a lot of moves to address that, cutting costs everywhere they can. You may be saying, Luke, laying off a few hundred people may not make up $180 billion. No, but they're talking about everything from selling Hulu, have shut down some unprofitable services, they've sold some parts of their companies to different companies, all in an effort to bring in more revenue and lower costs. Plus, they're racking up their current places to try to generate more revenue from things like DirecTV Now. Keep a close eye. I don't think AT&T's done here. I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg of AT&T's attempts to cut down on their debt and operating costs, which could include things like selling off their 10% share in Hulu. That keeps popping up as AT&T is very serious about it. Watch that. I'm interested. How important are these things with you? When you hear companies laying off employees, is that to you, hey, that's just business? Or does that really matter when you're looking at what company you're looking to hire? Now, the reality is all businesses have to lay off some people. You know, the economy changes sometimes, and that revolves into, hey, you know, we don't have money. Sometimes the industry changes. You know, as for your people get dishes and stuff installed in their home, there's not a need for as many dish installers. It's just not. We're not going to pay you to sit there and do nothing. There's that. We may try to move you around. But when you hear that news, right, you know, justified or not, that's up to you. Does it affect your decision to go work with that company? I'd love to know from you. Leave me a comment. How important is that if you hear people being laid off when you go look for a company? Does it make you worry? Like, hey, they just laid off a bunch of people. If I sign up for this service, does that mean it won't be here in a year? Leave us a comment. I'd love to know. Last story of the day. Apple is bringing AirPlay to a ton of TVs. And I mean a ton. Everything from Sony's Android TVs are getting Apple's AirPlay and HomeKit, all the ways up to other TVs getting iTunes, including LG. So LG is going to have iTunes on their TVs, plus AirPlay and HomeKit. Excuse me, not LG, Samsung. Apology. Correction alert. Samsung's getting LG, or getting iTunes. LG is getting AirPlay. This is most interesting to me because it really looks like Apple has decided, okay, we're not going to dominate TVs the way we've dominated other markets. Well, you know, Android still makes up the vast majority of phones. I know Apple says best-selling phone because they take each Android, like the Samsungs and the Motorola's and stuff, and they have those as their own. But when you add up all the Androids, it's the biggest. But Apple has a huge dominance in that market still. And it's big enough where Apple can do things and dominate. On TV, they're talking 10 to 15% of the US market for cord cutting is Apple TV. In our own surveys, that's about where it puts it. Where Roku's at 70-some%, Fire TV's getting to 40% ownership. Some people own multiple devices, so you have a Roku and a Fire TV in the house. I think this is Apple's way of saying, hey, we can't dominate this market like we have in the past. We can't come in here in TV. We've tried, hasn't quite worked out. People don't seem to be interested in our premium price versus a Roku versus a Fire TV. Now, there's a lot of people who love it. I know I'm going to get emails and messages. Apple TV is the best. That's great. If it's best for you, that's awesome. But I think Apple's kind of decided we can't dictate this market anymore. And with them releasing the new live TV, or not their on-demand TV service, they want to be on as many devices as possible. I wouldn't even be surprised if a Fire TV or Roku or other devices get the AirPlay or get some type of app from Apple to stream their new TV service. But now it looks like the new service that'll be coming out sometime this year will be available on all kinds of TVs, from Vizio to LGs to Sony's to Samsung's. We'll be able to at least AirPlay it to your TV and more. I'm very interested, though, to see Apple's long-term goal here. Are they going to become more of a service provider in the TV space? Or I'm assuming the Apple TV is not going to go anywhere. This is a huge blow to their Apple TV, though. One of the main reasons to get the Apple TV was things like iTunes and AirPlay, which no one else had. Now, though, you can increasingly say, hey, I can get a smart TV or a LG, Vizio, Samsung, and more with the ability to cast from my phone to get the iTunes, to get the new TV service, and then get for a third the price of Roku or Fire TV, an Android TV device. So keep that in mind. Very interesting to see what Apple is doing there in the future. And I'm really interested to see if they do support a streaming player like Roku or Fire TV. Let me know. Would this make you less likely to buy a Fire TV now that you can get your AirPlay support or even iTunes from Samsung? And then just get a Roku to supplement whatever else you may need, or a Fire TV or an Android TV? Leave me a comment, let me know. One last story of the day. I had the privilege of meeting with the head of Android TV this week at CES. And one of the things I found in our conversation, I brought up the issue that people with a high-end Android TV device are very happy. I find often, though, people with the bare minimum Android TV devices sometimes are less happy. The performance isn't nearly as good, and you got this great gap between the two different types of devices. Now, there's a huge price point difference, too. And the head of the Android TV department let us know that, yes, we're going to be setting minimum hardware standards. Now, she made it very clear, we're not getting rid of the low-end Android TV market. She basically was very clear, we can have both. But but we can also have some minimum standards that will affect how Android TV works. Now, they already do this in Android phones where you have to have a minimum spec on your phone to now install Android, and they keep moving that up slowly but surely. I think this is good for Android TV because there is a huge disparity in the quality of different Android TV devices. Having some minimum standards that you know when you go in and get an Android TV device and you take it home and plug it in, that you're going to get a good experience will be good for them. The other thing is, I brought the issue with apps. You know, Amazon Prime Video isn't on most Android TV devices. Some Android TV devices don't even have Netflix. Others, there's no live Hulu. So the Hulu app is an older version with no live TV installed on. And Google made it clear that they have a whole team now that does nothing but reach out to content creators, app developers to bring their content to Android TV. Now, my question to you is, would that make you more likely to get Android TV? Did you dismiss Android TV because of either hardware or app support? Let me know. It really seems like Android TV is finally getting the attention it deserves. For years, you've heard me right here ask, is Google serious about Android TV? They didn't talk about it much. They wouldn't, really do much with it. It felt like it was just a stepchild behind the Chromecast that wasn't getting a lot of attention. In this meeting, it really felt like Google's finally saying, this is what we're going to do. This new head of Android TV took over last year, and they're moving it forward. So leave me a comment. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on Android TV. Are you excited about the hardware? Are you excited about new apps? Would that make you reconsider getting an Android TV? Let me know. All right, so that's the show from CES. I am tired. I'm probably going to go back to bed, take a nap today, recover from my CES gloom. Yeah, there's a lot of steps. I had one day I was almost at 20,000 steps walking around that convention floor. So my feet hurt. I hope you had a great week. I hope you enjoyed our CES coverage. I'll see you next week and in some undisclosed location as we get moved into the new cord cutting headquarters. Take care, everybody. Thanks for your support.